Okay, Okachuku.
This is Straight Talk Radio, the world as we see.
Coming to you from WGHC 98.3 FM. Your voice, your music, your station.
Listen to us this and every Saturday at 4 to 5 p.m. U.S. Central, and this and every Tuesday at 9 to 10 p.m. U.S. Central.
Ndewono.
Hey, Igbo kwenu. Hey, Mwano. Hey, Sotano. Hey, Patano. Hey, Kwesoni. Hey.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of Straight Talk Radio, coming to you from WGHC 98.3 FM. Your voice, your music, your station. With me in the studio today is
Mazi Ejike Obase.
And we have our other co-host, Mazi KK Odeloga, on the phone.
There you go.
And I am Mazi Oke Okachuku. Thanks for joining us for another episode. We appreciate you joining us, and we welcome you to the program. Before we start, I would like to let you know of an event that's coming up very shortly this weekend on May 26th. It's an annual street festival hosted by WGHC. It's our first annual street festival. It's promoting peace, unity, and love in a community suffering from gang violence up here in Uptown area. And it's going to be between Wilson and Broadway, and we encourage everyone to join us on the Saturday the 26th. It's going to start in the morning, so if you start showing up at 11 o'clock, you're not too early, but we will be here all day. And there will be music, there will be food, there will be culture, African culture, there will be a lot of DJs and interviews, and so come out and enjoy this, and come celebrate peace in our community, and come hear some of the speakers. Some of them are politicians, but we have a lot of people who are activists in the community, and we have community organizers. Come out and enjoy the community and help promote peace. We really look forward to your presence. So that's on May 26th between Wilson and Broadway in the Uptown area. But today on our show, we're going to have a conversation about some of the things you hear in the news in the U.S. So before I get to the main topic, I want to throw out a few things that have been happening. So we know that there is this summit that everybody's anticipating. It's almost like finding a new date with the North Koreans. They met with the South Koreans. They want to meet with the U.S., and I know some of the Europeans and Russia. Everybody wants to meet with them, except end of last week, Kim Jong started saying, well, he got pissed off by something, and he's saying he thinks that the summit may be off. And now it seems like we have to try to remedy the thing that everybody was trying to get to. What's your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on that, first of all, I must commend the president of South Korea. He has worked very, very hard to make this a reality. Because at the end of the day, when two elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers.
Yes.
His country is directly in the line of fire between North Korea and the United States.
Right.
So, having said that, I have to commend Donald Trump.
Yes, the president of the USA.
Give
and his
kudos to him. Yes, because at least they have been able, whether by happenstance or anything, they have been able to have movement in something that has been at an impasse for many, 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 many years.
Yes.
So that is also a good thing. Yes. Now, having done away with all the pleasantries, let's get down to the
real work.
Yes. I think it's in North Korea's best interest to sit and talk.
To seize to carpe diem the opportunity.
Yes. They may be fooling themselves. The rest of the world knows that they are in dire economic straits. And of recent, their major ally, China, has had reason to be displeased. It seems to me you've done your testing. You have your nuclear weapons. The world knows you have nuclear weapons. I hear Donald Trump saying that he is even willing to discuss protection.
Yes.
So I think it would be foolish for them to let this opportunity slip by. On the American side, I am hoping that our president, having brought them together, will allow sensible minds to go and negotiate on the American side. That's my opinion.
Mazio Delga.
Yeah. I mean, let's look at history and the background of this whole conflict. Okay, Korea used to be one country. Then there was Cold War.
The Korean War happened.
The Korean War.
The Korean War happened. The North was supported by Russia and the Chinese, and so it was again part of what you saw during the entire Cold War era. Surrogate wars fought between America, the West, and the East. East represented by Russia and China, and the West, America and Great Britain. So we went to war with defending the South because we didn't want communism to take root in North Korea.
Right.
And at the end of the conflict, there was no ceasefire. There was no truce. We didn't sign, Korea did not sign a peace treaty, so technically the two Koreas are still at war.
Right.
And so U.S., as a defender of our ally, the South Koreans, we have positioned troops in South Korea since the 50s, late 50s, under Eisenhower. So now, where are we? At DMZ, it's all lightning rod. So the North is posturing that they don't want anybody disrupting their system. The South has made tremendous progress. You know, it's a huge second-rate economy. Now, what I thought that has been happening, and that is something that I felt should be supported by the global community, when the president of South Korea reached out to the North Koreans, and so much to the point that they had a meeting, and he stepped across the DMZ line. We should leave the South Koreans, who are people of the same ethnic heritage, to solve their problem. I think the involvement of our government kind of like disrupted some kind of a good conversation that had begun between them. Because if you recognize the conversation going on around this whole negotiation, it's about the Libya model. Do we follow the Libya model or not? And what is the Libya model?
That is made up by John
Libya,
Bolton.
Gaddafi supposedly surrendered his nuclear weapon, and we ended up supporting the rebels to kill him.
And how did it work out for him?
The man wants to survive.
Right.
He feels it's in his interest to keep his nuclear weapon as a deterrent to the West aggression. Now, what are the things that precipitated this new crisis regarding the summit that was planned? Because our military started
exercises, right,
drills in the China Sea with the South Korean military. On the eve of this whole negotiation, on the eve of the meeting, so the president of North Korea says, I'm not sure I want to be part of it because, you know, you guys are showing your power and your force. I got to, you know, tool up. So what would be my recommendation? Let's all watch the two Koreans go into this negotiation and see if they can come out and negotiate a peaceful settlement as people who have members of the same family, you know, spread across the two Koreas.
Yeah.
So
on the the letter, on the couldn't number.
So
they can talk about their issues and resolve it amicably.
Right. So
sometimes external forces can disrupt some sensibilities within conversations that are supposed to be familiar.
Well, I recognize another thing. So I'll try to join what both of you said. So the commendation to the South for all their effort to get this working, the commendation to the administration in the U.S. and President Donald Trump for the heavy lifting they've done up to this point. And then you're saying, well, before we go further, because I think there's a conversation about the embargo and all the what do we call sanctions that needs to happen beyond the South Korea.
Yeah.
But you're saying before we get there, that maybe we should let those brotherly conversation work itself out first, and then we'll follow. We'll join after that.
My issue with that.
Yes.
First of all, I have never been able to bring myself to fault North Korea for trying to develop a nuclear weapon. Because talk about deterrence, that is a deterrent, okay?
Well, the scary part of them trying to develop a nuclear weapon is not that they're saying, Iran was developing a nuclear weapon, and they were always saying, well, when we have this, we're developing this because Israel has one.
Yes.
And we're going to have ours so that when it all starts, we're going to wipe it off the map. And nobody likes that.
Yeah.
North Korea, on the other hand, actually, when their development is, well, we're going to point ours straight to the U.S. So what's this big mad thing about the U.S.? If they're saying, okay, we're going to develop our nuclear weapon.
Because they know.
Yes.
And I'm sorry to say it. We have a history of removing people around the world that we don't like.
But not everybody.
Everybody. We have a history. If we don't like you, if we do it covertly and we cannot win, we do it overtly. So, no, if you want to be fair, I think if I were in the same position, I would try very hard to have my own deterrence, because that is what is ensuring the survivability of his regime. But now, having said that,
yes,
I am in no way endorsing the North Korean regime.
Okay.
Mazio Deluga says the two Koreas are brothers. North Korea has not actually acted in a brotherly fashion towards South Korea.
Well, because there was a fight, and like he said, he who fights and runs leaves the fight for another day until the fight is settled.
So, because there has been quite a lot of aggravations from north to south. So, they have not been good neighbors. And you have to accept that successive North Korean regiments or regimes have used the threat of violence as a negotiating tool.
Yes, and it's worked out for them.
So, I am, I don't support the North Korean regime.
They're using something they know that worked.
So, but I am saying that if you want to be fair and balanced, there is method in their madness. Now, would it be, okay, then you go back to the hypocrisy of the world. China, their neighbor, has nuclear weapons. Nobody is asking China to disarm.
Too big.
We in America, we have the mother of all nuclear weapons.
Too big.
Nobody is asking us to disarm. Who gives you the moral right to choose who can and cannot?
So there's the nuclear
proliferation, okay,
and the agreements to start to lower the stockpiles.
Yeah.
And that seemed to be working, at least to some degree, except for North Korea trying to develop a new one and Iran trying to develop a new one. And then the new administration comes in and says, look, this whole proliferation and getting rid of nuclear is not working. So we actually think we should ramp it up and get more.
But you see, and I want us to look at that, think about what we're telling the world. Our government, our president, is considering guaranteeing them protection.
Yes.
If they disarm.
Yes.
Denuclearize.
Yes.
Now, the government of North Korea is one of the most brutal dictatorships in our time.
Okay.
So now, all you want is give me your nuclear weapon, and then you can eat your people. You can destroy land. You can destroy, not give the people freedom and starve them to death. So we're not going to hold him accountable for the human rights abuses that he has perpetrated. His family, over 2 generations, have perpetrated against the North Koreans.
Oh, but
for the sake of just giving us, just give us this little victory. We just want to be the ones that took away your weapon.
I think
if you don't give it up, we will make you suffer. We are not going against North Korea because of their human rights record. And so that's why my position is the South Koreans are motivated and they truly want unification. Because there are families on both sides of this great DMZ who really want to come together once again as families and as communities, loving each other, just like what we saw in our time between West and East Berlin. The East
Germany,
and West
East
Germany.
And West Germany.
That's right. That's all they're looking for. And perhaps if we could just shield our swords and allow these two communities to see what they can negotiate, no matter how little, even if it's communication on a weekly basis, it's better than all the war and the doom and the catastrophe and all the threats that is coming out of Washington. Unfortunately, it is making the guy a little more paranoid.
All right, we're going to leave it there, as they say on TV, and we'll continue that another day. I want to remind you you're listening to WGHC 98.3 FM, your voice, your music, your station. We're going to take a 1-minute break, and we will be right back.
Chicago! Join us for WGHC's first annual street festival on Saturday, May 26th, where we are promoting unity, peace, and love in a community suffering from gang violence. There's free entry, so make sure you tell a friend. There will be food, live music, a DJ spinning competition, live performances from local artists, and of course a jollof competition. Meet us there in Uptown Chicago at 4554 North Broadway from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. We encourage you to wear African attire. So come out and have fun with us.
WGHC 98.3 FM. Your voice, your music, your station. Follow us at facebook.com/WGHC 98.3 FM to watch all of our live streams. iPhone users can download our WGHC 98.3 FM app in the App Store. All other users can download the TuneIn Radio app or visit tunein.com. You can also listen by phone. Dial 1-563-999-3221. Visit our website at www.wghcfm.org.
Thank you and welcome back. And we're back to Straight Talk Radio on WGHC 98.3 FM, your voice, your music, your station. So before we took a break, we were talking about news and events that are going on. And I'll be remiss if I forget to mention that this past Saturday, unless you were under a rock, there was a royal wedding of some sort. And then we ended up with a Dutch and Duchess of Sussex. And this is the royal wedding between Prince Harry of the Buckingham Palace and Miss Merkel of the U.S., an actress. What are your thoughts on the royal wedding? Did you watch? Did you see what went on?
If you have women in your house, you have to watch. So, yes, I was made to watch it. Well, my thoughts, two people are in love, they got married.
Yes.
So the fact that it's royalty and with all the glitz and glamour, it is still two people in love and they got married. So we move beyond that.
Yes.
Yeah?
Mazio Delega.
Yeah, I mean, I think I know where Mazio is coming from.
Yes.
But the fact, though, is that history was made. And again, it's one of those events of life that brings up the historical background to a lot of all that happens in our time. Now, Meghan is not the first person of color, or let me say African, in the royal family.
Right.
There is Queen Charlotte, who is the daughter, and she was married actually to King George, the mother of Victoria, the Queen Victoria.
Yep.
Yeah, she was of African descent, and
definitely,
You're off the phone.
we recognize that, and also the title that they had, that they were given, the Duke and the Duchess of Sussex,
Yes.
actually they are actually the second occupiers of that title.
Right.
The first person who had that title was Prince Frederick, who was the son of King George III. Now, he was known as a radical and a rebel.
Those are the good ones.
He's the son of Queen Charlotte. He was anti-slave trade. He was a promoter of injustice in Great Britain at that time. And supposedly, when he married 2 wives. His first wife, he never got the permission of the king. The second time, he didn't. But he wasn't the favorite child of King George.
He was an innovator.
He was an innovator. He was unique.
Yes.
Yeah. And so subsequently, after he died,
Sussex did not have another.
They
Dutch.
never had another duke. So it's interesting that Queen Elizabeth had to give that to her grandson and Harry, and a wife, one of African descent, 2 who is an activist. And so it's not by happenstance that a lot of things that happen.
Some thought that went
There
into
is some thought and there's some history that went
Yes.
into it. And so I think the British monarchy is recognizing that they have to come clean and actually be like everybody else and allow, like Mazi Obasi said, love
to flourish.
to flourish,
Yes.
and not just have, because this history about Charlotte never came out, was not one of those things that the story
not
was told.
something you-
Yes. But since the arrival of Meghan, they began to have exhibits about her pictures, some of the portraits that were painted of her. Some people have tried to Europeanize her by making sure that some of her African features didn't come out. But now there's a whole gallery celebrating her and her reign.
So where was her roots from?
She came from the royal house of Portugal, which had some African connection.
Yes.
Between the German and the African. Yeah. So of course, most royalty in England married each other. So that's how this whole thing came together.
Yeah. Well, like I said, 2 people in love got married.
Yeah, so my
Yes.
daughter is too young. My wife was busy, so I wasn't made to watch it, which was, I saw the information on Facebook, and also I had other things that were keeping me occupied.
Okay.
But
Mea culpa.
yes.
No, and there's a Chicago connection to this whole.
Oh yeah, she went to
Yes.
she's a wildcat. She went to Northwestern.
She went to Northwestern.
Yes,
she
yes.
was. She grew up in
A lot of
in
great
Chicago.
people grew up in Chicago.
Well,
At
yes.
least have
No,
the
I
road
mean,
passed through Chicago.
growing up in Chicago, in the sense that her professors at Northwestern talked about how she matured and came of age here, knowing herself and being in touch with herself, and really.
I gotta go check. Maybe we were on campus at the same time.
It could be. And then, there's another Chicago connection. The bishop
Yes.
that delivered
yes,
is our
yes,
own
yes.
Who I
Bishop
know.
Michael Curry.
Yes.
No, he's from you're Episcopalian.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's your bishop.
Nawi.
So I mean, the guy,
Yes.
the bishop stole the event.
I saw something that suggested I just have been busy, but I'll at some point I'm going to either watch the video or
I think his sermon was very apt. I think his sermon. Okay, so now I can say something about that wedding. Okay, thank you. I knew you would lead me to say something.
yes.
And I am happy it was said in front of the royal family, top to bottom. Where am I going with this? What did he say? As Christians, because I am Episcopalian. Originally, what we would say, Church of England. That's what we used to.
Anglican
The Anglican Church
Yes.
was also called the Church of England.
Yes.
The head of the Anglican Church till today is the Bishop of Canterbury.
Yes.
Okay. So, the royal family politically has not been a force in running Great Britain,
The state, right?
but clearly they are an important voice. If you look at the Second World War, the Queen was germane in rallying morale, especially during the Blitz, the bombing of London, when the Germans wanted to destroy London. Every night, bombs, and morale was low. The Queen was seen as a rallying point to raise morale. So, what did our bishop say? Went back to the Bible. Love your God with all your heart and all your mind.
Shema.
And love your neighbor as
yourself.
Yes. And he said this in front of the royal family. And I ask, from 1967 to 1970, when Biafran children were dying like ants in the streets of which street?
Where is the Lord?
All over the little enclave of Biafra, when the rest of the world had a conscience to come to try to save dying children, where was the royal family?
Where was the Lord?
That's my question.
No, and that is one of the things people talked about. The fact that, one, his style of preaching seemed confrontational, seemed evangelical. It goes against the grain of a quiet, reserved, polite,
maybe
English
that
way of
person
speaking.
hasn't been in a black church.
So again, that was one of the things that came out.
You gotta
that
be.
He was
you gotta have that experience.
He was a little theatric, and really, but he spoke very well and spoke to the heart of the issue. Love God, love thy neighbor as thyself. And the question is, if there is love, like he says, is redemptive, is this, is that, there will not be hungry children, there will be respect for each other and all that and all that. And you're right, the royal family has not really placed their voice as a voice of conscience, but have also, remember, the prime minister, the government of Britain is her Majesty's government.
That's
so she actually delegated the power to the prime minister. So it is really her government that sold bullets and ammunition and provided the experts and the military tacticians that helped Gowon and his cronies to plan the massacres and the starvation that killed a lot of Igbo children. In fact, that thought came to me. And a little,
you asked me of my thought. That's my thought.
No, that
on
thought came to me, and a few tears to my eyes, because I wondered that Harry, her grandson, is getting married.
Yes.
There are many fathers of Prince Charles's age.
Yes. Whose children died.
Whose children
starved to death.
Who don't have grandchildren?
Yes.
Who doesn't have, have
they
children?
They don't have grandchildren.
No, there are grandfathers like Prince Philip.
Yes.
And fathers like Prince Charles.
Yes.
Who, because of Biafra, does not have the children or grandchildren that will be celebrating the beginning of a new family. And there are many who cannot find the daughters to marry. I mean, so it's reality.
Yeah.
And that thought came to me, that here the royal family is celebrating the coming of age and some
with all
good
the
stuff
pomp and pageantry and everything
for one of their sons.
Yep.
But they were responsible for depriving many Easterners, parents,
Eastern Nigerian parents,
origin,
yes,
from having the same joy
that they were celebrating on that day.
And so but that's life. But the truth though is that the sooner they as a family begin to come to grasp grips with their history and some of the antecedents, because the tiara, everybody's talking about the tiara. The question is, where did the diamond come from? Where are the diamond mines of Britain? The Queen Mother gave it to the
South Africa, where the gold mine caved in about 2 weeks ago.
No, I'm just asking, where is the gold? Where is the diamond mine in UK? From where they got the diamond
in that tiara.
The ring was Welsh gold. Okay, that's fine. Let's not say it's Ghanaian gold. Let's not say it was collected from West Africa. But a lot of the wealth of the royal family actually were
from plunder, not pilfer. Plunder. That's a different thing. Wow. When you pilfer, you steal. When you plunder, you destroy and take by force.
So a lot of people will look at history and say, well, if you read the Bible, you hear of Nebuchadnezzar, you hear of, when you look at the Romans and all the things they did, it is a spinning wheel, right? It comes to your end and you, but when you know better, is what you're saying. When you know better, you do better.
Yeah. So at the point that Britain was supporting the killing of Biafran children with starvation,
yes,
they were aware that those are the parents who sat in pews and many listened to sermons from altars, from pulpits, that were imported out of London, and where English missionaries worked, and English and Scottish missionaries served, and pastors and ministers and bishops presided over. So literally, they were allowing the death of the church that they planted.
Well, isn't it along those lines? Two neighbors, Britain, Ireland.
Yeah.
Look at the response to Biafra.
Yeah. So Irish priests decides to stay and die with their congregants,
and Britain
kills
decides them.
To say we're going to kill them. And then interesting thing happened at the end of the war. The Irish priests got punished for staying back in Biafra by Gowon's regime, by trying them in the law courts and convicting them of working without permit and putting them in jail, and before deporting them and declaring them persona non grata. But that's a side story. But it's important because it's
May 30th coming up. So
this is the month for us to remember things. Well, so as things happen in life, we must remember. And that does not mean we hold grudges or we hold unforgiveness. He says we must tell the story
and found history in there.
Yeah, the good news, of course, is that both Meghan Markle and the Prince seem to be people of a modern era.
Yes.
They understand and recognize injustices around the world,
and
they are passionate
work for justice
against. So, no grudges against them. Young people, we wish them well.
Yes,
we wish them well.
Well, so it's time for us to take another 1 minute break. So bear with us while we listen to some of our sponsors.
Chicago. Join us for WGHC's first annual street festival on Saturday, May 26th, where we are promoting unity, peace, and love in a community suffering from gang violence. There's free entry, so make sure you tell a friend. There will be food, live music, a DJ spinning competition, live performances from local artists, and of course a jollof competition. Meet us there in Uptown Chicago at 4554 North Broadway from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. We encourage you to wear African attire, so come out and have fun with us.
Mills Real Agents has been serving the northern Chicagoland and surrounding suburbs for almost 30 years. If you're relocating your family from around the world, looking for that perfect home in your new land, or looking for that perfect storefront to achieve the American dream, Mills Realty is here to help. We take the time to get to know our clients and find the properties that best fit their needs and lifestyles. Whether you're looking to buy or sell a property, you can contact us at 773-764-9547. Visit our office at 2640 West 2 Chicago, Illinois, or look us up at millsreal.com.
Hey Chicago, your very own African Caribbean station WGHC 98.3 is asking you to help support us, your favorite station. Help support our mission by donating $1 today on our website WGHCFM.org and our Facebook page. Click Donate Now and fill out the form, or call us at 773-942-7167. Your donation is helping us keep our station up and running and impacting our community. We are your voice, your music, your station.
Welcome back to Straight Talk Radio. This is this program is coming to you from WGHC 98.3 FM. We are hoping for those who are not on the north side of Chicago, who are going to attend the May 26th show on Saturday, where we have a street festival going on between Wilson and Broadway and in the Uptown area. If you're going to come by Lyft, we have a promo code for you so that you could get 20% off 2 rides. That's your to and fro ride from the event. So the promo code is WGHC983. WGHC983 is the call letters of this station, and 983, which will be the FM dial without the dot. So if you give that to your Lyft, if you use that to reserve your Lyft, that's a promo code that will give you 20% off for 2 rides up to $5 off. So there's a link on our Facebook page that you could use, and that will get you straight to Lyft, where you could actually make that reservation. So that's a promo code we have for you to attend the festival. And like we said, it's going to be a cultural blast with some African food, Jamaican food, African culture. Come and enjoy yourself. If you've been listening to us, we were discussing news and events around the globe. We've talked about 2 already, so we will bring it back to the U.S. where we live and then start off our conversation for the day. So if you've been listening to the news and anywhere in the U.S., you hear of a lot of some similar events as I would describe that happens. So there is in the news of people who were close to the border of Canada, but they are U.S. citizens at a mall way inside, away from the border. And while they were having a conversation, they were confronted by a customs official who detained them for 35 minutes, asking them for ID. Even after they produced the ID, they still had to stay for 35 minutes because they were running their background. And why? Well, their conversation happened just to be in Spanish. And the reason that the guy gave was that they were speaking Spanish in a predominantly English country. Actually, in an English-speaking country. I know some of you are listening to this and going, this really didn't happen. It will be great to say, that I'm joking, but I am not. And also, this is not the first and only story. We hear a lot of these going on, of people being stopped by custom officials way inside the border of the U.S., maybe you got somebody to court and you just look foreign, or you're speaking a language that it's not English, or you just happen to have an accent, or you just don't look like a U.S. citizen, as if there is any such thing. But Mazi Obasi,
Yes.
what are your thoughts on these kind of actions and this particular story of being accosted by custom officials within inside the border, and being harassed even when you are a U.S. citizen but just look different or sound different?
There's no doubt that the climate in the country has changed.
Yes.
I think that is as clear to anybody that lives here as day is tonight. I am not sure that there's very much you can do in these instances except don't escalate. You're a citizen. They want your ID card, give them your ID card. They want to run a background check, let them run a background check. If they want a foreground check, let them run a foreground check. The bottom line is, at the end of the day, they cannot take away your citizenship. And after all the harassment, you're going to be let go. Your revenge is in the polling booth. That is where you make your voices of displeasure heard. It is clear that we elected people to office who have taken this country back 1,000 years. This is not the America a lot of immigrants wish to come to. This is not the America a lot of immigrants that have been here have lived in. And I promise you, this is not tomorrow's America either. Eventually, this will be a blimp in the history of this great country. So, rather than scream and shout about these injustices, I know we talked about dubbing today's discussion, stand your righteous ground.
Yes.
Because I think what we need to begin to do is to look at these instances on a one-on-one and begin to see if there are ways that we can advise our listeners to better handle these positions. Clearly, you do not want to be in a position where things escalate. You find yourself incarcerated under one, charge or the other.
Resisting arrest.
Worse still,
Insulting an
lose
officer.
your life.
Yes.
So let's talk about what we should be doing as citizens of America when there is a climate. I mean, this is not new. J. Edgar Hoover did worse things, and America survived. America will survive this era too. So that's my feeling.
Mazio Delega.
I identify with Mazi Obasi, in the sense that now nobody very nata.
Yes.
I mean, what he said is it's wisdom, but it should not deter us from being who we are. So for me, if I see an Igbo man or woman in the mall, on the streets, and I feel like having a conversation in Igbo
Yes.
is still within my rights as an American.
Absolutely.
And if the Border Patrol decides to stop me, or ICE, I can choose to speak to him in Igbo until he gets an interpreter.
An interpreter.
And I think, to me, that would be a very interesting thing. So finally, when he gets the interpreter, I will now show him my true color, prove my citizenship, and then make sure that I have his name and number, and then seek redress in the courts of justice, for which we are known for. So if any customs and border person is listening, this is not the oath you took.
To serve and protect.
It's to serve and protect Americans, not to harass
I have
them.
an angle on that, right?
Okay.
So usually, I mean, you serve at the behest of whoever your supervisor is. Who's serving at the behest of whoever his supervisor is? Who's serving at the behest
Of the people
president,
that elected him.
of the president?
Who was
because
elected
there's
by
an
the people.
There's an appointment, and then so there are two sides to this. There's one side that's saying there are letters of the law that are not being followed, that has been ignored for years, and then they've been convinced by some people that the consequence from that is that they are now losing jobs to illegal people. Illegal meaning people who came to the country illegally without the right papers, through the window, not through the door,
Sure.
who are taking over all the jobs that could be coming to them. That's one angle, and some people believe this to their core. And you could argue till the cows come home, and you will barely have made a dent in their.
Sure.
So let me ask the question.
Yes.
The jobs that they took.
Oh, that's like now you're splitting hairs because
No. The job that they took,
Yes.
are they aliens that employed them, or illegal aliens that employed them, or Americans that employed them?
So that's actually, and that's what those are the things that these people should ask whoever is telling the story, because I know, maybe because I've been close to the employers and also close to the system of employment, that it will be hard for you to get a job in the U.S. if I could not e-verify your social security number.
That's right.
Okay.
It will be hard for you to get a job if you don't have a social security card, even if I don't have e-verify.
That's right.
Because one of the things you have to prove is that you are eligible to work.
That's right.
There are two ways you could prove that. Either you bring your U.S. passport or your U.S. residency card with an ID, a supporting ID. If you have a passport, your passport will take care of your ID and everything.
That's right.
Or you bring two forms of ID and your social security card.
Yes.
If you don't have these and somebody employs you, that person is doing something illegal, and if they get caught, there's a hefty fine to pay.
Yeah.
But also, you have to do a lot of convincing
Yeah.
to somebody on
the
with
point,
these penalties to be
the
able to
point-
employ you.
So, okay, look at the New York incident.
Yes.
Here is a learned man who is of the learned profession, like they say it. He's an attorney.
Yeah.
Walks into a restaurant. So some lady walks in, sat down. A hostess comes to her. She figures out, oh, that's somebody from my ethnic heritage.
They could speak
So
Spanish. I want
started-
to use
yes.
my language.
So they're now talking in Spanish.
And-
Then he flares
and
up
Yes.
in a country
Yes.
that since 9/11 have begun to covet and actually promote the use and specialization in other languages
before
as a
ni-
security.
Before
as a-
9/11, they were teaching Spanish, Latin, French in schools, in elementary schools.
Yes. No.
Not as electives.
No, even now,
Yes.
the security apparatus of our country is in great demand of people who are bilingual, who speak Arabic, who speak Igbo, Yoruba, Spanish, Russia, because they need language specialists
Yes.
to be for national security purposes. So all of a sudden, some people feel that they got to stop all these languages being spoken in America because
it's a misunderstanding, and like
no.
Mazi
Meanwhile,
Abasi
yes.
said,
Meanwhile, English. Let's be let's be frank.
yes,
English is not the number one most spoken language in the world. It's number 5. You have Mandarin, spoken by the largest number of people. Hindi, even then followed by
Arabic.
French.
Okay.
French, Spanish, and then English. English is the commercial language of the world, but it's not the most popular, most spoken language.
And if we have
Well-
to make America great again, then we have to go back to the Cherokee Native Americans.
I choose to be Navajo.
No. You see,
and start wind talking and all, right?
no. Yeah. I
Yes,
mean,
you
at
can
the
be
found,
Cherokee. I choose to be Navajo.
no, but
Yes.
do you know that at the founding of this great civilization, there were people who spoke French.
Yes.
There are people who spoke German,
We did the
Yes.
Louisiana
Oh,
partition.
yes.
and
let
then
the
there are
French
people
go.
that spoke English.
Yes.
Actually, I heard that when they were about to adopt the national language, English won by 1 vote. We would have been a German-speaking country because majority of
That is tough to
Ohio
learn.
and many of the people in
Minnesota.
Ohio and Pennsylvania, were
yes,
Germans.
German, yes.
And Germany was German
Even
language.
Michigan.
Michigan.
The Dutch,
It was
Germanic
it
languages.
was
yes.
very popular in the U.S.
Yes.
French was
Maybe you
easily
our
well spoken
engineering
all
program
over.
would have been wonderful.
Do you understand? So the English came up because again, so language should not be used as a test for patriotism
I think
or nationality or citizenship.
You know.
It should be encouraged because in a global community, it is handicapping to know only one language.
Yes.
I think, if we take a step back, because this issue of language is one in a lot of things that really irk me.
Yes.
I like your suggestion. If you're sure you're in a safe place, decide you don't speak English.
No. It's not that you did. You could decide that you need. So,
No,
I'll tell you a story, and if she's listening, she's not gonna like this. My wife had driven to the mall with the kids, and on coming back, she was stopped by the police. Somebody doing his job.
Yes.
For good reason, he stopped her. My kids, the grown-up kids, have decided to unbuckle themselves and stand looking backwards and looking at the cop.
Okay.
So when the cop pulled her over, she explained, look, I buckled them in. If you could look at, you will see that the youngest is still buckled up because he can't remove it. These people could remove theirs, and they removed it. And I didn't know because I was watching the road. So she's thinking this guy is going to turn around and say to the kids, don't do that again. Here's your warning, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
The guy decides to write her a ticket
Okay.
and also tells her that she must come to court.
Okay.
By now, she's not happy. And of course, if you grew up in Nigeria or any other place and you really get to the point where you are stressed and frustrated, your accent becomes thicker than it usually is.
Yes.
And also, you think clearest in your first language. So, she goes to court, still mad. And when she comes to court, they made the mistake of asking her, because of her thick accent, do you need an interpreter? She says yes.
Very good. Very good.
And they ask her what interpreter, she says Igbo.
Igbo.
And she has to come back. And on the day she came back, and they had an interpreter over the phone, actually over the screen,
Yeah.
and she speaks, the lady interprets. And they say she waits for the lady to interpret, and she speaks. And she says that at some point there was a side conversation with the lady that's supposed to be interpreting, trying to give her advice. She's like, no. Stick to your interpreting. I do the speaking, you interpret. But what I'm saying is this. The court provides an interpreter for you in this country.
Yes.
For any engagement with the state.
Yes.
So
To make sure that you have full
So make sure that
full
you could think
representation.
clearly and express yourself
Yes.
clearly. Don't try to, and I know somebody in my family who went to the U.S. Embassy for visa, a different story altogether, and we advised this person to please use an interpreter, and they went there and decided to exercise their English speaking
Skills.
That is the wrong place to try to exercise that, because was denied a visa. The person was denied a visa and couldn't understand why. Well, there was a second try, and I bet you on the second try, they used an interpreter,
Yes.
and it worked out better.
Yes.
Because if you go there and you can't express yourself, I don't blame the person to say, I don't understand what you're talking about.
No,
Next.
I mean, it's because I think this whole upsurge
Yes.
is really trying to constrain are the rights of those who have learned other languages or who grew up in other cultures or whose family or members of their family had the privilege of having another language that they could learn from exercising their right of freedom of speech.
I think it's profiling by any other name, whether it's by the Border Patrol or by the police or who. There's always some kind of profiling, and
Yes, right.
and actually, it's not. I know where you want to get to, so I want to get there fast. It's not just the police now. It's not just law enforcement. Now, your
Citizens
neighbors are
are
beginning to
profiling.
profile
There
you.
you go.
So you heard of the Harvard student who decided to sleep in a common area and had the police visit them. You heard of a guy who's trying to get into his apartment complex and had the police visit them. It wasn't because the police just decided to visit these places. It's because somebody, the neighbor, called them to say, hey, this person looks...
Suspicious.
But no, he fits the profile, right?
As
Whatever profile you have in mind of who the bad person is. So citizens starting to profile people now and call the police, or the police or law enforcement, be it customs, are now taking it upon themselves to add additional profile to do their job to the best ability, their best ability. And sometimes I'll say the law enforcement people are doing only as much as they know. Not that it's the right thing to do. They're just doing what they know, right?
Okay.
It is our job, like you said, to de-escalate,
Yep.
but also assert
Stand your ground.
real righteousness.
Absolutely. Well, so I'm going to throw out this question
Yes.
because you have ACLU,
Yes.
you have
Southern
the,
Poverty Law Center
SPLC, yeah,
and
and all
NAACP.
these human rights and WACP. Thank you very much. My question to them: have you ever considered suing on behalf of a person who is treated such? Sue the person who called the police.
Even before the next door lawyer, the hungry lawyer next door, will like for you to call him, because even if he doesn't get to court, the settlement will enrich their pocket.
Yes. No.
No,
This is a country of laws.
Yes.
Now, I am sure you won't get very far trying to take any action against the police themselves because they were invited.
And also, it's their
fact,
duty to.
yes,
Yes,
to
they are doing what they are
respond.
supposed to.
Yes. The issue is there has to be some liability.
Yes, for making false.
For making a false-
There's
yes.
a law against making false statements and false claims, and I'm hopeful, like everybody else, that the police will show up. Like I saw in one video, that the police will show up and determine, with good sense, who the profiler
Who the idiot
is and who's wrong in that case, and remedy the situation.
Yes.
But what we've
and
seen
possibly hold somebody because
and
again,
hold them accountable. for
remember
making
the
false
police
reports.
being called to a situation like that, the young lady that was sleeping in
Yes.
at Harvard, is moving,
or to
removing,
people at Starbucks.
removing the police from maybe going after
Critical
a critical
duties.
duty of a
Critical
crime
duties.
happening in a
They drive a car, they spend time. That is taxpayers' money.
yes.
Right. And what we are not saying is that if you see something that you shouldn't say anything because it may be that what we're saying, if you see something suspicious and something that is not right, yes, it's okay to call the police and report it. Don't try to.
Don't call because you saw me
Don't-
speaking Igbo.
Don't call
Because
because
Igbo is
somebody's
my
doing
first
something you
language.
don't like that has nothing
No,
to
let
do
me
with
just
breaking
put
the
it
law.
out there.
Don't
By
call
the-
because people are trying to have a barbecue at the park. Don't call because somebody is sleeping where it's lawful
common
to sleep,
area.
or that
Yes.
somebody is standing in a public place where it's okay to stand even if you're not buying anything, or that a realtor is trying to open a door to pretty up the place they're going to sell.
No, not only
I
that.
saw that video, and what I liked about the video of the realtor was that the guy waited patiently. The police showed up. He de-escalated. He went to the police and explained the situation. He had already explained it to the woman, who wouldn't just call the police and stay away, but stand out there and harass the guy. Then the police went. Actually, this is a I hate to say it, but it's a white police officer went to the white woman who reported the case and said, "Madam, you're harassing the young man, and I'm going to stand here to make sure you're not causing him any harm. And if you keep doing that, I'm going to arrest you." That is the right thing to do.
That's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
That is actually the right thing
actually,
to do.
I had sat on a parking lot in my black van.
Black man in
Black
a black
man in
van.
a black van.
I was the black man
Wearing
in
a black
van
jacket.
You look suspicious.
Very
in,
suspicious.
in the parking lot of a bank. You know.
A bank.
Yeah.
Oh.
And the police was called. So anyway, the point is, don't call ICE on me for speaking Hebrew.
Right. So
Because
some
and I'm teaching my
black
children.
or white, some guy black or white in a black suspicious van in the bank, you could call the
You can
police.
call the, that's what I was trying to say. Wearing a black jacket.
Yes.
No, I think they were right in calling the police.
You know, the interesting thing is, I'm teaching my children to speak Igbo.
Yes.
Now,
As we should all do.
so that they will be aware of their heritage
Yes.
and be fully exercise their humanity as people who were born Igbo
Yeah.
in America.
Yes.
Because the Igbos that came here before lost their language.
We're not
Because
yes.
they were not allowed to.
They spoke Igbo for some time before they creolized.
They were mixed so much with so many other people. That
But
it's
my
hard to
point
find.
is, don't arrest them because
Yeah.
they spoke
They're
Igbo.
fostering their culture and
Yes.
community.
You know, so, but again, it's one of those things that America has to wake up to. We're multicultural, multi-ethnic, multilinguistic nation, and that's actually an advantage.
That's a
That's
great
a
It
thing.
good
gives us great strength.
That is a good
because
thing.
these are pools of resources. We don't need to send CIA and embed a CIA officer or FBI among the Igbos in Nigeria to understand them. You have native speakers here
Yes.
who can give you the layout of what's going on and how the people think. That actually gives America the opportunity to know the peoples of the world. And if they're all gathered here in America, then you have the diplomats amongst us. You have the people who can help you negotiate deals, and people who give you insight into thinking. You don't need to send drones or electronic
Yeah, if you're
eavesdrops
sending drones, it's too bad already.
to understand what they are thinking.
Yes.
There are people who know them.
Yes.
And that's the strength of America, that everybody that you need, God has brought them under the shores of this great land.
Right. So if we take what happened in the Middle East, in Iraq and Afghanistan, for example, if you had people, and we did, who could speak Farsi and Arabic,
Yes.
then it's easier to have them teach other people than go there and you don't understand the people that you're trying to.
That's right.
To help.
So we
liberate.
now started raising up language experts and interpreters, and eventually
Cost.
ended up,
and it takes a while.
and then we ended up now having to extract them out of those cultures because they were seen as collaborating with the enemy.
Yep.
And so we now have to take them out of Iraq and out of Afghanistan to bring them to the U.S. as immigrants, as some kind of asylum, political asylum. And many of them we left behind,
Right,
and many
because-
of them have suffered great consequences
many
for
of them are
helping
no longer
us.
alive.
Many of them were killed because they supposedly cooperated with the enemy, or people in their family died. So language is critical to our survival in a global community. If we have the expertise that we need in our citizenry, that's better. So, Mr. Border Patrol, take them easy.
It's probably not the guy that did the stopping. It's his manager. It's his supervisor.
No, the supervisor. You see,
Because-
no. The Border Patrol must know the Constitution, knowing fully well that the Bill of Rights, number one.
Well, the article said that they have jurisdiction 458 miles from the border, which
No,
means
that's
that
okay. He can-
still had jurisdiction.
No, if
but
he's-
also as a border patrol person, which means he has a badge. That badge means that he could question anybody.
No, you see, what would have been nice
Yes.
is the Border Patrol now listens because he's white. Let me just say he's a white guy, right?
Yes.
And he's listening, not the two people having the conversation, not knowing that he understands Spanish, now he's able to understand what they are talking about. And one of the other people says, "Oh, I didn't have paper." Then he said,
I have course.
I have
Oh, is
course
that what
now."
happened?
No. He's because
The
he's
people have
ignorant.
papers.
You see, again, it goes back to what I have been
It's a
saying in
fear
this.
of the unknown.
The fear
Yes.
that is in the system.
Yes.
If you spoke a different language, I'm afraid of you. I don't understand what you're saying, but all of a sudden I have to be afraid of you, where I think you might do me harm or do the system harm, so I need to contain you. That is not the right attitude. And that fear had been here since the beginning of the president's campaign. And I will say that.
Yeah.
Because that was where the demonization of Americans of different ethnic heritage began.
Yes.
Anybody who is not Caucasian.
Yep.
So he first attacked the Mexicans. Of course, the Africans, what are they doing here? They are from a country. Interesting story regarding the Africans.
Yes, I know what you're going to say.
Somebody, I don't know how true that is, but I heard that the first lady was taken care of by a nice brother from Haiti.
Haiti.
Who
Oh,
is
the
in-
same place.
The SH capital.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Yes,
a good
it's
thing.
capital.
I think God has a very great sense
God
of humor.
has a good sense of
He
humor.
just
Of
does.
course.
It's like, well,
Yes.
these people are useless. They should go back to wherever they came from. And one of them that came from that place is the Savior.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, well, if you were asking before, now you know. You don't have to ask again.
No, then you wonder what they bring, Yeah, because that is usually the story. What do they bring to America?
Other than come here and take all the
Take away everything
jobs
we
that,
have.
people
Meanwhile,
don't want anyway.
the people, the Americans you're defending are saying, I need them.
Well-
Because there are many jobs that Americans,
If we discuss
not want to
immigration now and the effects of the current immigration constraints, we could talk about the farmers who are having a hard time because a lot of the harvests are not
Yes.
being done because
Yes.
a lot of these
Who's
people are
gonna
now
who's gonna pick
traveling
the
to
orange?
Canada
yes,
instead of the U.S.
Yes.
and picking and harvesting their crops.
Yes.
Talking about Canada, I'm going to we'll take 1 minute break, and when we come back, remind me to talk about Canada.
WGHC 98.3 FM. Your voice, your music, your station. Follow us at facebook.com/WGHC 98.3 FM to watch all of our live streams. iPhone users can download our WGHC 98.3 FM app in the App Store. All other users can download the TuneIn Radio app or visit tunein.com. You can also listen by phone. Dial 1-563-999-3221. Visit our website at www.wghcfm.org.
Chicago. Join us for WGHC's first annual street festival on Saturday, May 26th, where we are promoting unity, peace, and love in a community suffering from gang violence. There's free entry, so make sure you tell a friend. There will be food, live music, a DJ spinning competition, live performances from local artists, and of course a jollof competition. Meet us there in Uptown Chicago at 4554 North Broadway from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. We encourage you to wear African attire, so come out and have fun with us.
WGHC 98.3 FM, your voice, your music, your station. If you're enjoying the show, you can show it by donating as little as $1 a day. WGHC is a non-profit organization, and your donations are what keep us up and running. It's easy. Just visit our website at www.wghcfm.org. All donations are tax deductible. Visit our social media, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at WGHC 98.3 FM.
Hey, WGHC 98.3 FM would like to help you out. If you have a business or an event you would like to have us advertise for you, then we have some great packages for you to check out. Some of the packages include sponsored events, 30 to 60 second ads, and more. We have advertising space on our shows available starting at $200 and up. Send us an email at 98.3fmwghc@gmail.com to get more info. Also on our Facebook page at WGHC 98.3 FM. Don't forget to follow and like our page.
Welcome back to Straight Talk Radio on WGHC 98.3 FM. And we thank you for listening to our program. We've been discussing stand your righteous ground, and this is in response to the story of Border Patrol stopping some people in the mall near the Canadian border. Well, when I say near, it's hundreds of miles away from the Canadian border.
30-something miles.
Okay, 30-something miles. It's inside, not at the border. And these are people, American citizens, who were shopping, just happen to be speaking Spanish. So what we are saying is, if you find yourself in such a situation, cool down, calm down, obey. The law enforcement, you have a legal obligation to be obedient to law enforcement reasonable request. Yes. And the reasonable request of producing your ID, if you have it with you, is reasonable. If you don't have it, listen to what they're saying, that it's lawful, and make sure you don't put yourself or anybody else in danger, but stand your righteous ground. If you're speaking your language and that's the best way you could communicate, and sometimes it is, continue to do that. The law will provide for you an interpreter.
At least in Audible.
Yes.
Okay, in English?
No. I mean, by calling for an interpreter, now you have a witness.
Two heads are better than one. Anyway.
I mean, how did we find out about this story? Because one of the ladies flipped out her phone and started recording.
Yes.
And now that brother who was accosting them maybe have to undergo some administrative review.
Wow, he will
possibly
go for training,
or retraining,
sensitivity training. That's the usual thing.
Yeah,
we'll
but you see, I like what Mazi Obasi said at the beginning of this conversation, and I think that point should not be lost on us.
Yes,
immigration is at the very center of the November 2018 election.
Yes.
Whoever controls the House will have the responsibility of squashing all this nonsense that has been going
on.
Or escalating it.
Yes.
Now, and my appeal, especially to the Hispanic and the African American, the Black Congressional Caucus.
To all lovers of
please, let's work together.
Neighborly.
It is a myth that these Africans or these Mexicans are coming in to take
away your jobs in droves.
Yes. That is not so true. And we're not trying to take over anybody's land or anybody's job. But the very same reason that brought the Europeans to the American shores is the same reason for which many are coming to our shores in our time.
Everybody.
And therefore, we cannot, in good conscience, like Igbo will say that you can't cross the bridge and then blow it up.
Yes.
You actually repair the bridge and make sure that you pave it well so that others will cross and come into
and benefit just from, like you have.
That's right.
Okay.
So it's important that those who are eligible to vote, and you must pay attention. The DACA issue, the comprehensive immigration reform, it's critical. It's important. Businesses are begging for it. The farmers are dying to have some kind of program that will bring in
a
legally
program
that will bring in people who will be farm workers, farm help.
Not just the farmers. I know that
the high tech,
yeah, H1B, the cut down of the H1B visas is affecting.
No. By the way, the president uses H1B for his the people working in hospitality.
Once the quota is exhausted by the big company, the smaller tech companies will have
his companies, his golf estates, his golf resorts. They use H1B to bring in hospitality workers, those who come in to work in Trump resorts and all that. They use HB1. After all, his wife was once a H1B worker before she got her
I was
green
once
card.
A H1B person too.
Good. So it's not as many of us. Yes. So it's not anything. Yeah. But my point is, sometimes when we talk about immigration in our community, within the African American community, or what I call the African diaspora, it doesn't really resonate. But think about it, that the only way black migration into the North America increases is either through people coming out of the islands or from Africa.
Yeah.
And of all the ethnicities that were the founding ethnicities of America, the African American have not taken the full benefit of family migration
yes.
based on family. In fact, up until 1965, the U.S. immigration law discriminated against African migration. It was the 1965 Immigration Act that actually opened up the opportunity for people from other parts of the world other than Europe to come into the U.S. So the DV lottery that was put in by in the 90s, late 80s and early 90s was supposed to kind of like allow people who have not met their quota in immigration to meet their quota. And that's how you see if the Francophones coming in.
Well, but and
a lot of the
supposed
Africans
to do that. What he did in the 80s and in the 90s is open it up for a lot more migration from the
Europe and Asia.
European countries.
No, that was
and
the
Asia.
intent. But you cannot discriminate about. So
Yes,
if
yes.
the goal was to open it for East Europeans, but then what inadvertently happened was that Africans and
Africans were latecomers because Asians have been in India and a lot of the Indonesia and some of the other places exhausted their quota way before.
Yes.
Africa is latecomer, at least Nigeria especially, because Nigeria is no longer qualified for the DV lottery.
Yes.
Because the quota of Africa has been overutilized
Yeah, but you
by
see,
Nigeria.
why am I putting immigration back on the to make sure
we are
that
friends of the U.S.
No, what?
Your friends get to come.
How many? Well, there you go.
No.
Because-
You see, the issue is, let's be clear.
Yes.
It is politics of numbers.
Yes.
Yes.
And the sooner we wake up to the idea that Okonye Wanya,
Well,
you see,
yes.
we have to be.
I want to say something because I think that when we discuss immigration, at least when it gets discussed in the political realm, there's always this conversation about merit-based.
Mm-hmm.
If we start discussing merit-based, what's the best merit for coming to a country other than having the right skills, having the right attitude, and being qualified on some test, aptitude test or something, whatever? If we merit it that way, well, why are we going to cut off the quota for Nigerians? Because how many degrees does each of those people from Nigeria have before they cross the seas? Put any aptitude test in front of them, put any test in front of them when they get here, or even at the country where they are before they get here, I'm pretty sure we will exceed the merit.
Yes, but you see, the merit can also have other criteria
Like
that
what?
you do not know.
Like what?
Well, first of all, you start
Like
talking about
skin color? It's not a merit.
accreditation.
No.
Accreditation.
First of all, you see, you might go to Europe, for example,
Yes.
and people will be able to go to any U.S. consular office
Yes.
to get processed
Yes.
for those kinds of visas.
Yes.
You can come to Africa, you may have one per region.
But that's not merit.
So, no. The merit is there, but the access is limited.
Access, right,
Yes.
right.
That's one. Two,
Yes.
the merit is usually linked to employment.
Yes.
So first of all, you have to be hired to be evaluated and assessed. And so who is hiring who? So how many African American companies or black establishments will be hiring straight out of Africa because they really want this chunk of people?
So we got some job to do to educate some.
No. So the thing is, why shift the goalpost in the
Yes.
middle of a game? There is something about principle and tradition. And that's why sometimes, you look at our friends across the Atlantic, they adhere to tradition. This America has been an immigrant-built country. Everybody that came here, minus the Indians, are
Native
immigrated.
Americans.
So that's our tradition. You can't change it. And we believe that we should be welcoming to anybody. So just like in the old good book, God told Israelites, he said, look, you guys were strangers once in Egypt.
In Africa. I want to put it that way.
Good. He
Yes.
said you were strangers in Egypt, in Africa.
Yes.
So you better know how to treat strangers when they come amongst you.
Now,
So
some
the
people,
way
I want to preach for a second. Some people read that verse and actually only see the negative connotation, which is you were once slaves in Egypt and you were treated badly. No. There's another side that you're missing, and I want you to correct that today. If Israelites spent more than 400 years in Egypt,
Yes.
and the God is telling them that you were, remember, you treat strangers nice because remember you were once strangers in Egypt. Do you think he's just saying don't do to them what they did to you? No, he's saying you must have learned how to treat strangers from how you were treated in Egypt.
Yeah.
Because Egypt is in Africa, and anybody who ventures to visit any country in Africa, I'll say especially West Africa, but then I'm biased. If you visit any country in Africa and stay only for 2 days, you will not stop talking about how they treated you as a
How
stranger.
hospitable.
If you stayed a week, you want to go back. If you stayed 2 weeks, you don't want to leave. That's what God was telling them. Remember, you were once strangers in Egypt. Read it with a different comma placed somewhere, and you will see that he's saying you learned something as strangers.
Yes. No, the point is experiences you've had should inform your actions in the future.
Yes.
And so we know how difficult it was. You see, that is the point that I try to make to some of my friends, whose parents maybe came maybe 60 years before me or 80 years before me. I say, look, you better go talk to your grandfather or your dad or your mom and find out how were they treated when they came here. It's
Ask Columbus how he was treated by the Navajo and Cherokee and
no. I mean,
different
in
tribes
fact,
that he met.
No, interestingly, I just came back from a visit in Jamaica. So the Jamaicans will tell you that Christopher Columbus didn't discover them; they discovered him when he was lost.
He was lost somewhere
in the Caribbean Sea,
and they discovered him, and then all of a sudden he could write. They couldn't.
So they were they were the ones who found him wandering around, nearly dying of thirst because he couldn't find fresh water, and so the local Taino Indians pointed him to some of the fresh waters where he drank. But that's
like
a different
Marco Polo
conversation.
discovered sea route to India when he was trying to find something else. Or Mungo Park discovered River Niger.
So my point is, immigration
Yes.
is the only portal through which we refresh and re-energize and reinvigorate our nation, and it should be sacrosanct. It should be sacred. Even people who talk about, people came and overstay, you have to come in the right way. Stop. How many of you came the right way to Africa and pilfered the things you pilfered, took away the things you took away?
Two wrongs don't make a right.
No. I'm just saying,
Yes.
Before you start casting stone about people not coming in the right
live
way,
in a glass
some
house.
of them, some of them that are talking about, if they woke up their great grandfather, he will tell them, I strolled into the country. I was one of those who crashed in on inside a container. I was one of those who was running away from danger, and I had to walk in through the desert to come into the country. And so every family has an immigrant story that is similar to the stories that you're hearing. There were a lot of young people who were put on the ship from Italy, from Sicily, running away from violence and poverty, and sent them straight to New York to meet some distant relative who will pick them up. So a lot of young children, arrived at Ellis Island.
That was before we took a chisel to what's written under the Ellis Island and scraped that thing off.
Yes. Bring me your...
No, we scraped that off. We don't want to bring any of those downtrodden people in anymore.
If you... it goes right back to where we started. I've always maintained that civic life in America is a pendulum. We swing to the left, and where we are way over to the left, we now return and swing way over to the right. We always touch the extremes before coming back to the middle. We are now at an extreme. But my feeling is the pendulum will soon swing back to the middle. So, like my role model, Benjamin the donkey, in what's the novel?
Animal Farm.
Animal Farm says,
Okay.
"Have you ever seen a dead donkey? If you live long enough, you will realize that you don't pull your hair out. Whether you are a right-wing guy seeing America move to the left, or you are left-wing seeing America move to the right, we have the ability to self-correct. America will survive."
So talking about strolling and America surviving, there's another part of America that I said I'll talk about after
Sure.
the break, and that's Canada. And this conversation, if you're not Nigerian, you could close your ears for a second, or you could cover it. The Canadian government is working with the U.S. government, and also is working with the Nigerian government to try to stop Nigerian citizens from first making it to the U.S. and then strolling into Canada on foot. And why is that? A lot of Nigerians, it seems, have been seeking asylum in Canada, and it seems like the popular way that they do that is they first get a visa and legally come into the U.S. and then asylum walk in to Canada. So, any thoughts?
Well, my issue with immigration as a whole,
Yes.
I'd like everybody to go and look at the EU model. When the European Union, was established, and they had free borders and free movement of peoples, one of the biggest worry at that time was Spain. Spain had a lot of poverty, unemployment.
Still the same word.
Infrastructure was not as good as it is. But what the EU did was to invest a lot of money in Spain to begin to provide opportunity for Spaniards. And you found out very quickly
That they stayed home.
that given a choice, people prefer to stay where they were born
Yes.
and grew up. So, like Ndi Igbo say, "Onye mere ede, oji be nwee." If-
Go ahead.
If Nigerians are migrating out in large number and the Canadians don't like it, rather than tell the United States to try to slow visas coming into the United States,
Which they were already doing anyway.
Okay.
Perhaps.
Yes.
Perhaps
Now they have a good reason.
Perhaps
Another
you might
good reason.
look at it another way. I think Nigeria is going through the worst political
and economic and
socio-political,
call it
economic,
anything.
by any indices, Nigeria over the past years since this President Buhari was
Even
elected
before him, but worse
has
now.
regret. No, well, under Jonathan,
There was
there was
signs.
hope.
There were signs. Yes.
people were leaving the United States and going back to Nigeria.
Yep.
No,
yep.
in droves.
So no,
And people were coming into the States
And going
back with,
freely.
because they had the funds, the resources.
Yeah,
They
okay.
came here, shopped, went to Disney World.
they
did
came here and made
tourism.
us feel so jealous because they'll come spend all this money and then leave. And
Okay. So, the point I'm trying to make is Buhari's election in Nigeria was supported in large measure by both the US and Great Britain. So you put in your man, he turns the country into a dung heap.
maybe that's what they wanted.
That's the SH that our president is referring to. Well, like I think it was Colin Powell, or was it Schwarzkopf that said,
No, it was Colin Powell. And if you break
if
it,
you break it, you own it.
Yep.
So don't complain to me about that.
Yeah.
Well, but Canada didn't break it. From all you said, you pointed at two different
No,
nations.
but the point is, I would love to be the fly on the wall when the Canadian High Commissioner
Yes.
is having a conversation with Buhari's government.
They had this Nigerian ambassador. So that's the other part I read recently. That actually took a trip from Canada, went to Nigeria. Went to Nigeria to take the message and the mission to Nigeria to try to find something, to work out something for the youth so that they will curtail the travel.
The Nigerian ambassador
to Canada
was sent home.
Well, he decided to take a trip home to take the message back. Okay. That's the big story. Now, I'm a Nigerian, so I'm cynical. As I read that.
But you see, again,
yes,
some of the people they are seeing in Canada may well be people who were displaced from the northeastern part of Nigeria with the Boko Haram. Yes. It could be people whose villages have been sacked by Fulani herdsmen. There could be people who lost their job under the caliphate economy.
Or people who are being tortured by the political system.
Ordinary business people who had a thriving buy and sell trade, import.
Yes.
That you killed their business because of your draconian currency laws.
So let's look at it from this point of view.
Yes.
The economy went bad.
Yes.
Because of the kind of leadership we have,
yes,
that have not been truthful with the people, lying about the conditions of things. So bottom line, people are afraid. They've lost opportunities. They're tired. They are seeking refuge.
Yes.
So now they are coming to Canada. The embassy is embarrassed, which is usually the game, because we saw this in our time in the 80s.
Are they really embarrassed?
In the 80s, it was Andrew who was threatening that
he's
check out. Then, of course, there was a whole mass media. First of all,
that probably was paid by foreign government.
No. The point is, let Canada ask the right questions.
Yes.
Go through your banks, first of all, before you start castigating the poor Nigerians that are taking desperate measures to save their lives and their children.
Yes.
Interview them. They could have stories they will tell you.
Yes.
Many of them may be actually running for their life. They have political asylum cases, human rights issues, all manner of things. Or people, bottom line, who if they stayed in Nigeria, they would die. So they are there. Ask yourself the question: how many of the Nigerian
you could to save your family,
people of the Nigerian political class who you fed and hobnob with in VI Ikoyi, who you invite to your country, how many of them have substantial bank accounts or investments in Canada, which were all monies that were stolen
from the government purse?
Now, it's the same thing for the U.S. Treasury Department.
Yes.
I'm waiting for the day that the U.S. Treasury Department will really go after the banks that are laundering money for Nigerians.
Yes.
And also EU for those that are laundering the money in UK and the Middle East. Now Dubai is now the new hub, is the new Cayman Island.
We do real estate now.
It's the new Cayman Island
in London
for financial secret accounts, shell companies. Look at what Mueller is uncovering for us with all this Russian probe. I wish the West will open that up, because you see, all if it were Talife, there is a cost to it. What you see, the people are walking into your country because somebody in your country is helping destroy their own habitat.
Their livelihood. Yes.
It's destroying their habitat. So then Nigeria wakes up shamelessly, flies the ambassador. No, why don't you let...
The ambassador takes a well-planned trip to go see his folks and to go tell his... So this is
no. This is embarrassing.
I discussed this with a friend.
The ambassador has no right.
He has a right.
Anyway, he can go home anytime.
What I'm saying is,
all he should have done is told his Canadian counterpart to go brief
the
Nigerian Foreign Office.
I'm pretty sure that Canada is probably paying for this trip or giving him some resources for this trip, and he's taking it, or he has actually asked for some resources and they gave it to him, and he's going back
to
and
chop
Canada
the
is
money.
thinking that
Maybe
he's
to
going to use
marry
those
a
resources
third
to do the job.
Yes.
He's going to go back to Nigeria, throw a party for his family. He's going to hang out there for 2 weeks, hobnob with the people in Aso Rock, tell them all about Canada, get back on the plane, and be right back.
And say, I
Because-
delivered your message.
Because the Nigerian government, by her own self, not with any plodding of any other government, have not shown themselves to be interested in doing anything that is moving the country forward by themselves.
Yeah.
Now, Canada, US pressuring them. How do you help a people who on their own, with all the resources around them, don't seem to know how to help themselves?
No. They know how to
The
help.
government, I'm saying.
Wait. They know how to
They
help.
know how
help.
to help.
When you're saying they know how to help themselves, you're talking about their personal self, not the country.
No, even when they, in the guise of helping the country.
Yes.
You see, if anybody has paid attention, there's this big, we are looking for Abacha money.
Yes.
As if Abacha is the only person.
How many
Who
times?
have-
Wait, all
wait.
the monies that have been returned in the name of Abacha, what has it done? Can they give us an account of 1 cent?
It is a good example
Yes.
that if a government is sincere and places a request at the feet of the international community, the international community has a way
Of
to
finding
respond.
those loot.
So when they ask about Abacha, the people open the books. So why don't they ask about Babangida? Why don't they ask about Obasanjo and all of them that are there?
No.
We should
So
give them a list.
No. You say Abacha money. They say, oh, yes, we have it here. The next one should be anything else? Yeah, because the list, Abacha is not even the tip of the iceberg.
Yes.
Start with Obasanjo. So, no. The
Maybe
reality.
maybe it's because Abacha is there, so maybe they're waiting for these other guys
Abacha
to die.
is.
So when you die, they will go for your money.
They'll bring your money
They
back.
repatriate your money.
But while you are alive, they'll let you keep.
So
keep it.
the question I ask,
Yes.
which is also a legitimate question, when you're going to these banks and these banks are telling you this is what Abacha owned,
Yes.
can you show me when the account was opened, how much was there, how long it has been there, and all the interest that has accrued? Should that not be repatriated with the money too?
Well, we don't know if the interest.
I promise you
they
it is
didn't
not
tell-
be-
Since they didn't tell us
well-
how much and how, since we didn't know the history, you're saying we're taking their word for it.
You're taking their word for it because Hajima.
Yes.
So, but my point is, economic hardship
Yes.
all through history
Yes.
has been
Led-
one of the reasons
that drives
that
migration.
drive migration.
Yes.
Let's just understand that migration is part of human history. And so when resources dry up in one area,
People
like
move to greener pastures.
that is inbuilt.
Which was
Onwere
demonstrated
Ghana.
by the caravan. Demonstrated by the caravan that traveled.
Oh, you
all
mean the
way-
rapists and the
The
murderers?
caravan that had all these stern warnings. They got to the border, they sang. Eventually, we opened the door for some, had them sign asylum. We closed the door and we opened the door. Now, all of a sudden, the TV cameras moved away because I wanted to watch that for the many days I thought it was going to stay there, but they didn't want me
you see,
to.
one thing that those young men
Yes.
and women know
Yes.
is that there are international laws that have guided and protected the movement of peoples all across the world.
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing when you saw the Syrians and the Afghans moving to Australia, New Zealand. Everybody has the right. This was the same reason why Europeans drifted into Africa in droves when they thought there was gold
That was
on
a
the
different-
street.
That was a different kind of
That was
migration.
like go west for gold.
That was a
in
No,
different
but
kind of
again,
migration.
they were
California.
no.
The,
You see,
the
Gold
point
rush.
is, the
It's
point
not
is
greed.
the classic point when there was the potato blight
That's right.
in Ireland.
Yes.
There was massive
Yes.
migration to the United States.
Yes.
Black Death.
Did anybody look to these Irish and say, you come from
Stop that caravan. Stop that ship. That flotilla better not get
yes.
here.
Yes.
When the Italians were going through their own difficulty, when the mafia was really terrorizing
we get
a
them
lot
and we get a few
of
them
immigration.
in the US too.
Even more recently, with the collapse of the Soviet Union,
That's right.
how many Eastern Europeans were allowed to immigrate to the United States?
Yes.
Did I hear any hue and cry about it? And then somebody has the stupidity to stand up and say, this is a white country.
Did you mean
this is not a white country. This is an Indian country.
Yes.
And
not Indian, Native American.
Native American.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Native American country.
Yes.
That all of us are now sharing by their benevolence. Even though if you had polled them, maybe they would have preferred you stay in your own place.
Yes.
But nobody thinks about that. So all these Caucasians who stand up here and talk rubbish, have you asked the Native Americans if they want you to live on their land?
Because if maybe we need to have a referendum among the Navajo Indians.
Yeah, absolutely. The Cherokee, the Iroquois,
They're gonna kick
bring them
me and
and
you out
ask.
too.
Well,
No,
let us
that's
all
why
go. Let
if-
us all
if
go.
they vote me off the island, of the continent,
Yes.
then we'll go back to Anibo. At least we still have a place to go. If we don't have
you
a place,
sure you have
no,
a place?
We'll take our African American brothers with us.
and then two,
Yes.
if there are Europeans that want to go with us to Africa, we'll welcome them. We are
welcome
very
them.
charitable
Uh-huh.
and hospitable people.
And that's why I was saying about that verse. Remember, you were once strangers in Egypt.
So if the Native Americans wake up
and
and kick all us out, no problem.
Yes.
We have deserts in Africa. We will repopulate with oases of resources.
We haven't done it up till now.
We will bring the water, the ice from the ice caps of the Arctic Ocean.
No,
down
just,
to
Kilimanjaro.
That's right.
Bring it down.
We have ice caps.
We don't need to do actually Nankweda. You get ice in Nankweda because you cover it very well. I'm really serious. I've made ice Nankweda. Yes.
Yeah,
there you go.
So Newi has enough land
You don't need
for
ice
everybody
coolers. Yes.
that will come.
On a serious basis, I going back to where we were talking about the issue of migration, and I like how Mazio Deluga put it. It is a fact of humanity. Mm-hmm. Populations through time have migrated looking for a better circumstance for themselves.
Yes.
Whether by famine, by war, by blight, whatever reason, people don't wake up and come to your country because they want to be criminals, because they want to, whatever negative aspect you want to ascribe to it, people migrate for the same reason. We are all human beings. Yes. You want a better life for yourself and your family.
Yeah, and for the African, let's put this in context. We are one of the most difficult people to uproot from our own ancestral heritage. It's one difficult thing
especially
for most
Igbo.
Especially in Igbo.
Absolutely. Will I run away?
No, son of the soil.
Because the man knows that the moment he leaves his native land, he gives up certain rights and privileges. And he makes himself vulnerable.
Yes.
And puts himself at risk
so
of other
that
people's benevolence.
More to the point, you separate yourself from your ancestors.
Yes.
Which for us is a very deep thing.
Yeah.
Yes. That they will bury you in a foreign land.
Or that you're taking up, that you're running away from your father's land. For
somebody to look at you and then say, you are coming for whatever reason. You need to poll the people that come here and ask a simple question. If conditions where you came from were better, would you still stay?
Yes.
And that's the other thing, because even a lot of us who are sitting here and talking still have this hope, no matter how small, that we will have the exodus in our lifetime.
No, but you see, that is the Igbo exilic hope.
Yes.
Ejana,
BCJ. Yep.
Obialije, Muna. There's always the hope of a return.
Yes.
Is what has sustained us in the diaspora.
Yes.
And that hope it's always there that things will change, and then in fact that's why
not
all
only
the
things to
investment
change, that even sometimes that you may be able to change things to the point that
You can come back. Well,
or that you could actually grow that thick skin
go
that you could bear
go
it.
and look at foreign repatriation into
yes.
the Nigerian economy.
Yeah. Remittances.
Yes.
Yeah. But again, like I said, I have gone through history. Abraham.
Yes.
Abraham at some point will leave Canaan.
Migrated.
No, he will leave Canaan and go to Egypt because there's famine.
Oh yes.
And he will cross in not once, not twice. You know, everybody it's just like asking a
You
sheep
do what's necessary to
what does
protect
to
your
survive.
family and survive.
To survive.
Look at
So-
South Africa, Southern Africa.
Yes.
Look at the migratory pattern of the animals.
Yes.
Yes.
When there is the famine, when there is drought,
Yes.
when dry season,
Yeah.
they migrate in droves.
Think about the geese in the USA going to Florida.
Well, there you go, monarch butterflies.
Yes.
Everybody goes somewhere.
Until conditions get better,
So-
and then you return.
Then you come back.
What I want to say to our Canadian friends,
Yes.
because I really consider Canada a safe haven for Ndibo
They have
in
Yes.
many ways.
They have
Yes.
During the Biafra crisis,
Yes.
the Presbyterian Church came out big
For Biafra.
It's
in
big.
bringing resources.
Yeah.
In fact, I have it in good authority that one man in Canada gave to the Biafran relief $6 million when money was money. And the person who told me this was one of the Biafra students, a member of the Biafra Student Association. The Oga Airport
Yes.
for relief that was built specifically to receive relief planes into Biafra during the controversy between Nigeria and Biafra and Red Cross,
the International Red Cross, yes.
that Uli Airport have to be opened up for daily flights. It was finally one of the proposals that was brought up was the fact that we should build a different airport that will not be a military airport, that will be strictly for humanitarian relief. And Ojukwu and the Biafran government agreed to that proposal. And the Presbyterian Church provided the resources for that relief, for that airport to be built. And it was agreed that 20 miles on both sides will be military, no
military.
no military. It was supposed to be
Neutral zone.
yes, war-free zone.
Right.
So no military installation within 20 miles. It was built. It was the Canadians that provided the resources. Unfortunately, 2 flights was only what was allowed.
Before
Red
they
Cross
bombed
flight.
it.
Then Gowon sent in his fighter planes and destroyed
to destroy
destroyed
the
it.
street.
So when people talk about the argument, that Ojukwu was using the relief and the children as a pawn for negotiation,
That's propaganda.
and that relief, Gowon and his government were determined.
Criminally
They were determined
complicit.
to starve us.
Yes.
I'm telling you.
But
you see, so again,
that-
Canada, much as the Prime Minister and the government of Canada told Her Majesty's line, because Her Majesty is still the crown. over
Commonwealth.
Canada.
Commonwealth.
So they
the head
told
of the
that line,
Commonwealth.
but the Canadian people not only accommodated Biafran students that fled England, because remember, a lot of the Easterners that were in England on scholarship from Nigeria, those
Lost their
They
scholarship.
can't pay,
Okay,
and-
so,
and
okay.
you could get deported. For
no.
that.
Remember, to make Nigeria one, to
It's
keep
a-
Nigeria one
it's
is
a
a tax
task
that must be done. So here is Gowon preaching that all Nigerians should be together, but then you singled out the Easterners that are under the federal
And don't
scholarship,
pay their tuition.
and then you won't pay their tuition,
And
you
you
withdraw,
want
and then actually withdrew
stipends.
their citizenship. So many of them found
stranded.
papers, they were
Yes.
stranded, and many of them had to fly to Canada, and that's where they found refuge.
right.
And they were allowed into the school system, and many of them went to school in Canada. You know, and that is actually the Igbo connection to Canada.
The Joint Church Aid
The
that later was dubbed Jesus Christ Airline.
Yes,
It's Canadian.
Yes, the Constellation planes
So,
that we are
yes.
flying, we are bought by we are
So
part
what
of the
you're saying
contribution.
is Canada has helped Nigeria before.
I don't know about
They know how to
Nigeria.
do it.
I don't know
I
about
helped
Nigeria.
Ndigo before,
Canada
and they
is
know
a
how
friend
to-
of Ndigo. And we hope that
They will continue-
this
the friendship continue to blossom.
this
Magnanimity and charity and hospitality that
No,
was shown to
yeah,
us.
Well, yes, because
continue.
don't allow a blip in history
Yeah.
to stain the character that you have exhibited
and built.
when tough times were there. Canada is a country that I admire. Yes, Nigeria is in trouble. People are, because you can see what's happening on the southern side of your border. That's what's driving a lot of what is happening. Eventually, elections come around, tyrants get removed, things settle down. A lot of those Nigerians will quietly come back to America. Don't allow the situation of today stain your character. That's all I have to say about that.
We have about 10 minutes.
Okay, so
yes.
If I could go down a little bit, you know, me and history.
Yes.
The Underground Railroad that saw Africans who were enslaved in the South,
Yes.
Deep
To
South,
Canada.
make it to the North. Many of them did not settle in the North.
Yes.
Especially Chicago was a big city in that route.
Yes.
So what the abolitionists were doing in Chicago was to put them on Lake Michigan and move them into Canada.
Yes.
So there's a huge population of Africans in Canada who were runaway slaves from the Deep South because Canada will not repatriate them.
Yes.
So Canada has been a refuge nation. She has a deep, a very glowing reputation among the nations of the earth. The way they treated their native, the First Peoples in Canada, is different from the way we treated them in the U.S.
Actually,
and so that reputation, they don't need to ruin it.
And I
don't
think
know.
they will.
And cause it to be
I don't know
tarnished.
which Indian tribe it was. It eludes me.
Mm-hmm.
That actually left their ancestral home here in the United States.
Yes.
And
moved to Canada.
moved to Canada.
Yes.
At the time, Indians were Native Americans
Yes.
were being hunted down,
Yes.
and massacred in large numbers.
Yeah, maybe
So-
during the time of Andrew Jackson, there was a president who he was.
Who
So-
decided
so
he was
yes.
going to be nationalistic. and-
If you are
No, no.
Canadian and you're listening to this, please tell your government to chill.
yes.
Ogadema.
You go
Like-
better, like we said.
No, like the Igbo, I say, what the chinchi, what the bedbug told her children.
Children, yes.
When did the
that,
do
you know, take it
chill,
easy.
take a chill pill. The hot thing will
That
cool down.
even the cook message joy that if the homeowner is pouring some hot water on you, that hot water at some point is
Will
going to
cool
get
down.
cold.
It will
So
cool down.
just hang in there.
Take a
that-
chill pill.
Yeah, and these people are coming. It is there's a reason why it is happening. If you can be a solution to the problem by holding the political
Government
class
accountable.
accountable.
But also, I want to say this. I've often said this about the U.S. and how the U.S. will lose if we keep playing this. Everybody stay away.
Yes.
Canada, if you're getting Nigerians as much as you're saying you're getting them, watch out because you're about to take over. Because I know the people you're getting, they are highly skilled and they're not lazy.
And very motivated to
They
succeed.
are motivated to succeed. So watch it. In the next few years, oh yes, Canada will be...
No, and that will be interesting to see in the next 10 years at the Olympics. How many of those Nigerians begin
It
to
won't
go
just
to
be
the
the
tracks,
sports, right? It won't
and
just
how
be
many of them will
sports.
even get into hockey, so ice hockey, and how many of them will booster their football teams
I am
and their
waiting for-
basketball.
I am waiting
the
for the first
educational
Nigerian,
system, the academic, I mean, things will... Kennedy will get better in so many levels. So take a chill pill. Just watch it. So we have 5 minutes now. And what's your summation of the discussion today in 1 minute?
Atualo malo, meaning that a word is enough for the wise. We have spoken so much about some of what's going on in our culture, and I think we have a very strong nation, and if we continue to be a nation that listens and has a heart for her people, we will get over some of these little minor infractions. But again, it's important that we think broader than we are thinking.
Well, I will repeat what I said at the beginning. Nobody has exclusive rights to this country. We are all Americans. They cannot drive you out of your own country. There are ways of fighting this. I have said I would really like the human rights organizations to consider putting their weight against legal action against some of these behavior that is really harassment. And whether you win or lose, I think it's worthwhile going after some of these individuals. And the most important thing, don't get mad, get even. Vote.
Yes, vote, as he says, and then for the legal institutes you mentioned, like ACLU, SPLC, NAACP, those places,
Human Rights Watch,
Human Rights, those people also need your help. So if you want to run to them when you're in need, remember them, because they don't do this because they have too much money to spread around. It's actually from the donations and from what you give them that they are able to continue to fight for you. On the same note, this radio station, WGHC 98.3 FM, also comes to you as a public-supported radio station, which means that we live on your donations to pay the bills here, to continue to maintain our equipment, and to continue to broadcast to you. So please go to our website, WGHCFM.org, and make a donation. It's on your top right-hand corner. Just click Donate, and your donation is very well received, and we really, really, really thank you for your support, and your donation is also tax deductible. Don't forget to come out for the Street Festival on the 26th between Wilson and Broadway. It's a festival for peace, love, and harmony in the community against violence, and we will love to have you there. And remember, if you take Lyft to show up, use the promo code WGHC983 for 20% off 2 rides, 1, 2, and 1 fro to the event. It's up to $5, 20% off, up to $5 for each ride. Even if it's $50, $5 off of 50, it's a huge bunch. So please take advantage of that. It's Lyft, the other ride share thing, WGHC 983. And I was going to say something that has to do with Things Fall Apart, but we will talk about that on Friday, since we are talking to our global community.
On Saturday.
Yes, on Saturday, sorry. Since we are talking to our global community today, I'll echo what my other co-hosts say, which is be safe, de-escalate as much as possible, and always remember that the law will provide you the service to better express yourself, even if you have to do it in the language that you best know how to. So from me, it is good night. Kachifono.
Ndewo no kachifo.
Kachibo Laruanu Kalma Ogadili Bomma.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, Juan. Hey, Sotano. Hey, Pratano. Hey, Quesono. Hey.